Jay Samit. You are a digital media innovator. You have pioneered advancements in music and video distribution, social media, and e-commerce. And you are the best-selling author of 2 books. And today we are here to talk about your third book, which hopefully will also become a bestseller, and it's called Future Proofing You. 12 Truths for Creating Opportunity, Maximizing Wealth, and Controlling Your Destiny in an Uncertain World. Jay, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for making the time.
So this is very apropos. We are in an uncertain world. People are losing their jobs. I mean, if anything, the coronavirus proved to us that there is no job security. People who thought that, this corporation who has been here for 10 years, my job is secure, all of a sudden, they find themselves without a future. And here come you with this book telling us this truth and also a solution on how we can create a future in which we are not dependent on all these corporations. We can create wealth on our own. So Jay, I saw your Wikipedia page. It's just long. I wonder if you could summarize it and tell us a little bit about your background.
So I'm no different than anybody else. I grew up middle class, believing that if you got good grades, you get out of school and you live happily ever after. And I got out in a recession. So there were no jobs. And so that set me on a path of inventing new things and creating new things and starting new things. So, did the first auction, which, is eBay. I worked with Reid Hoffman to launch LinkedIn. I've bought companies. I've sold companies. I've had startups that 18 months later you sell for $200 million. I've also run giant companies. Like I was independent vice chairman of Deloitte. We did 44 billion a year. Sony, we did 200 billion a year. So I've seen it from all sides. And if you would have told me dozens of my friends would become billionaires, I'd say, what are you smoking? So these people didn't go to the right schools. They didn't come from the right families. They didn't come from money. But every 48 hours, there's a new self-made billionaire. What are they doing differently? And you talk about disruption of this year. So my first book, Disrupt You, I told everybody, whether by choice or circumstance, every career gets disrupted. With the pandemic, I don't have to make that argument. But you brought up security. A lot of people think security robs ambition. No, it's the illusion of security that robs ambition. There is no security. 100-year-old companies disappear like that. Our educational system was designed to create industrial factory workers. Give them enough way to read, enough math, but stop them from thinking. So most of our parents and teachers talked us out of our ideas, told you to take the steady way, the safe way. So if you're at a job where you're not living the lifestyle that you want, you're not growing, you're not learning, they're paying you enough to show up but not enough to care, what you're really doing is day by day, you're giving away your life. So you're going to wake up one day and you were afraid to try something. You're afraid to start a business. You're afraid of losing money. You're afraid of whatever. The bigger fear you should be afraid of is wasting your one life that you have. And if you don't believe me, talk to your grandparents, talk to somebody in an old age home and say, what's your biggest regret in life? And what they'll tell you is not something that they failed at, but something that they failed to try. So what's unique about the new book is when I wrote Disrupt You, I heard from people in 140 countries. It's in all kinds of languages. It comes out this year in Urdu, Icelandic, Polish. And people told me how it changed their lives. I didn't do anything. I hold up a mirror to you. Most people think of changing the world, but they don't think of changing themselves. But occasionally I'd get an email, usually from a millennial, that would say, this is all motivational, but I could never do it. So in Disrupt You, I took a young man who grew up on welfare, who was homeless, and I mentored him 1 day a week for a year. I gave him no capital. I didn't introduce him to any business contacts, and I didn't tell him what business to start, but he had to start something that took zero money. And he went from welfare to self-made millionaire in 11 months. And he achieved this all on his own by following the 12 truths that we outlined in the book. So it was my way of paying it forward to show that everybody has it within them. You only need 2 things to be successful in life: insight and perseverance. I can teach you how to refine insight to have those good ideas. And perseverance, I can teach you how to bolster it and turn it into passion. Because if you're passionate about solving a problem, and entrepreneurs don't sell things, they solve things. Solve for 5 people, you have friends. Solve for 1 million, you're rich. Solve for 1 billion, you change the world. So the choice is yours.
How do you happen to be friends with all these people? Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Reeve Hoffman. I mean, I don't have any billionaire friends. I go to networking events, I go to meetings, I go to business get together, and I mean, most of the people that I know are struggling to make a living.
Well, one of the things that I cover in Future Proofing You is that myth of the self-made man or self-made woman is a myth. No one gets there on their own. So I have a whole chapter and truth called Don't Fly Solo, which means you're going to need mentors, a series of mentors. And the way to find them is to use LinkedIn, and I show you how the tools. It's not write to some stranger, hey, will you be my mentor? That's like walking to a bar and saying, hey, will you have my baby? It doesn't work. But if you start a conversation, if you see what their interests are, what they're posting about, and you do. I know a girl that was 17 that started a dialogue on Twitter with Richard Branson. And at 17, he put $1 million into her startup. That's how those things. When I was nobody with my little struggling startup, I wrote to Bill Gates. I had an idea that would make video games better and would help him sell more Windows PCs. And I asked if he would introduce me to David Geffen, somebody he didn't know, but it was the only billionaire in the music industry. And I wanted to get rock and roll music into video games. And so when the richest man in the world contacts a billionaire and says, you should take the meeting, he took the meeting. I had nothing to lose. So learning how to network, you are the sum of the people you hang around with. So if you're hanging around with broke people, you're going to be broke. You want to be the dumbest person in every meeting. I always am. I always learn from those around me. So over time, you build a track record. With this young man, he didn't have the self-confidence. So the very first thing that I had to do was instill a growth mindset. That's truth number one. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And the way I did it in this case was a little dishonest. I started our relation off by lying to him. There's a psychological effect called the Pygmalion effect. A professor went to school, tested all the students, and told the teachers 3 students would be super learners this year. At the end of the year, they take a test, those 3 kids are off the charts. The professor lied. He never looked at the first test. He picked 3 names out of a hat. But if you tell people they're special, they believe it and they become special. So I told Vin, this young man, that I interviewed over 100 candidates, and he was the only one that had all the attributes to become a millionaire, when in fact, I only interviewed him. But he internalized that, and when at the end of the first month, he had made $60,000, he believed. And when his business suddenly got sucker punched and got knocked off course midway through the year, he'd already made about $500,000. And I'm like, okay, I guess he's going to tap out and give up. That, you know, this was something unexpected that he couldn't have controlled. He just pivoted because he had learned with that mindset that every obstacle is an opportunity in disguise. So at the end of that month, when we had our meeting, his target was to make $100,000 for that month. And he only made $96,000, and he was beating himself up. And I'm like, could he go back in his mind to when he was on welfare and imagine being upset about making $96,000? That's the power that's in us. Everything that you wear, buy, watch, read was created by somebody that was stubborn. They didn't listen to the naysayers. And by the way, when somebody tells you no, they're not telling you that you can't do it. They're just saying that you can't do it with them. So my way of paying it forward is to show that all these famous names are just regular people, and you can do the same thing that they did.
Right. When we go to school and we are told this lie that if we work hard and we should get a good job and you know, work until age 65 and then retire, we believe that. But not only we believe it, but we seem to be happy with that illusion of you know, being part of the pack. And it's difficult psychologically to step out of the pack. I mean, you see not only in us humans, but you see a pack of wolves, and there's only one leader, not 20 of them are leaders. You see a whole bunch of monkeys, and there's one leader. So that position of leadership is uncomfortable. And I believe that many people are just happy being followers and just, struggling to pay the bills, because that's how means you belong in the pack.
But then I would say to those people, are you living life for just paying bills until you die?
Right.
Right? If the purpose of life is to live a life of purpose, to make the planet better, do something with your life that has meaning, why not go ahead and do it? Every day you delay is just a day that you're not working towards that future goal. And you're going to fail. I guarantee it. Bill Gates' first company failed, bankrupt. Walt Disney's first company, Henry Ford, everybody. But it's just like playing a video game. You don't sit down a video game and 4 hours later, woo, I won. You hit some obstacle, it kills you, you work and you hammer, you get past it, then you get to the next obstacle and the next. That's how Jeff Bezos could lose money with Amazon year after year after year after year for more than a decade and come out the other side as the richest man in the world. Here's the big lie that they teach you in school. Somewhere around third, fourth grade, they taught you math. Jay buys a banana for $1 and I sell it to you for $2, I make $1. And that's how people make money. While mathematically accurate, that's not how people make money. That assumes what's called zero-sum game, that there's only so much money, either you have it or I have it. And if you have it, I don't have it. If they get the raise, I don't get the raise. If they're stealing our jobs, if immigrants or other countries or robots, it makes the world a miserable place. But I told you, there's a self-made billionaire every 48 hours. Here's how they're doing it. If I tell you I'm starting a new company and I sell you 10% for $10,000, what do I now have? I have $10,000 in cash and $90,000 in stock. Wasn't made by the government. 90,000 new dollars that never existed. I can hire people with that. I can buy things. I can do stuff. That's where wealth is created. The old way, the Warren Buffett way, Warren just hit $100 billion. That's amazing. He invested and slowly, but he made 99% of that after he was 50. I'm after 50, and I can tell you I would have had a lot more fun with that money in my 20s. So if you look at Kylie Jenner, she became a billionaire at 22. And you go, well, she's a Kardashian. Yeah, well, there were no billionaires in the Kardashians, so what is she doing different? And you'll see that the people that are succeeding are following these 12 truths, not the conformity that was hammered into you. In Disrupt You, I taught people to change that voice in your head, the voice that says that you can't, the voice that is embarrassed, the voice. And once you realize that you can change, the person that you were when you went to sleep is not the person you have to be when you get up. And once you can change yourself, you find changing the rest of the world is easy.
Right. We are told that in order to become billionaires, we just had to go to a good school. We had to go to Yale. I mean, I hear this from so many podcasters already. You had to have that Ivy School diploma. But at the same time, in your book, you said that many billionaires are self-made. Many of them have
most didn't come from money. So let me describe it. Recent data will show you that graduates of four-year universities, any university, do not end up wealthier.
Right.
People with higher IQs do not end up wealthier. The only thing that it takes, and I'll hammer this again and again, is insight and perseverance. Everything else can be hired. When you look at the self-made billionaires, and there's a lot of them, and they keep on coming, most didn't go to good schools. Nowadays, they're not all coming from first world countries. Your phone makes you one click away from 7 billion people. You also have a new advantage that we learned post-pandemic, that you don't all have to work at the same place. So for most of history, you could only hire the smartest people that were within 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers. Now you can hire the smartest people in the world. You can have remote workers. And your customers, you could be in a poor country. Great. That means you can get people to work less, but your customers can be anywhere and everywhere. So it's about harnessing what makes you you, but taking your own superpower and leaning into it and filling a void. Entrepreneurs do not sell things, they solve things.
Right.
Solve a problem for 5 people, you have friends. Solve for 1 million, you have millions. So it really comes down to a basic premise. And this is what I did in Future Proofing You with Vin. Vin wanted to do social media for people. He was a millennial. He understood social media. He wanted to do social media marketing. There's 40 million people doing that. So I said, look in the news. Look what people are talking about. What's a new field that nobody's talking about? And set yourself up and say, I'm the social media expert for that. Now you're the only one doing it. Your first customer, whether they pay you or not, you kill it for them. And the fancy business school term is you now have a case study. Look what I did for this client. So now you are the best in that field. So the same clients that the first month were paying him like $200 for his services for a month, the next month the clients were paying him $30,000 a month for the same amount of work. And today he's got Fortune 500 clients. So it is that easy. I invented a new ad unit for internet advertising. And I came in as CEO of a little startup. They had 30,000 in revenue. Lifetime revenue of the company. The company had been around 4 years before I walked in. 30,000 is all that they ever made. 18 months later, News Corp bought it for $200 million. So that's the other thing people don't understand. I don't understand how these companies that don't make any money sell for all this. Well, I'll explain it to you. When you're a CEO of a big company, CEOs actually don't get paid a lot. They get paid a basic salary and a huge bonus if they hit numbers, i.e. make the stock move up, they back up a money truck to your house. So what does a CEO do? He cuts all spending. Let's not invent anything new. Let's get rid of R&D. Let's just make the stock go up. Oh, we have nothing to sell? We'll buy a company that already figured that. So rather than have 3 years of losses to make something new, just overpay and buy. So when Google owned desktop advertising, they were sitting pretty, just minting money. When all of a sudden they realized everybody's on the phone now, we're going to go out of business. They didn't invent Android. They went and acquired it. Facebook had the chance to hire the guy who created WhatsApp. They didn't give him the job. A year later, they buy his company that he started for $17 billion. Okay? So, sure, you can squirrel away at that job and be miserable for 40 years and then die. Or you can try something. And if it doesn't work, here's what people don't realize. When you fail, you don't end up where you start. You either earn or you learn. But either way, you're enriched.
Wow. Well, okay, here's my problem. We have gurus telling us that the way to get wealthy is to work hard, save money, put it in the index, and retire. And we have people like, not to mention name, but Dave Ramsey, who is one of the top podcasters in the world. He speaks for 3 hours every day. And people believe this. So, but you are telling us that in order to create wealth, we have to create it. We cannot just work and save it and wait for retirement.
So I'm not going to attack anybody's point of view. If you have the time, having money sit there, it will earn more. That's what capitalism, putting capital work. And as you start your career, you should be taking your money and investing and having it work so that you can sleep and earn money at the same time. But when you listen to gurus, here's my question. What billion-dollar company did they create? Okay? What multi-billion-dollar company have they been CEO of? Okay? What are they doing to make the future better? Oh, they're just talking? I'm here today. I'm not selling anything. I don't sell masterminds. I don't sell coaching. I don't sell t-shirts with my face on it, okay? The only reason you have to pay for a book is so that the publisher can make money and they do the distribution. This is how I pay it forward. So look at the source of the information. I've seen more people that are broke ass saying that they're going to coach executives than I've ever met. I mean, really, please tell me what your experience is that you can coach. So look at the source of advice.
Right.
I'm not telling you that these other things are wrong. I'm just telling you, when I look at the people that have created wealth and are creating wealth in the 21st century, there's a new, shorter path. So your choice. Warren Buffett method, if you're lucky enough to live to 80 or 90, you could make it to 100 billion. But I ask you, at 80 years old, what are you going to do with it? Get a more expensive brand of applesauce to gum on? I mean, whereas if you can make $1 billion when you're young, it's not about the money. It's about what good can you do with it? What problems can you fix? What impact can you have? That's the power of money. When Bill Gates retired, he was the wealthiest man in the world. He gave money to charity. He was a charitable guy, but bored out of his skull. A friend to him said, it's one thing to be remembered in history as the richest guy, but what if you were the first man in history to eradicate a disease from the entire planet? Now he had a new problem to focus his energy and his brains on. So he spent the next year and billions of dollars wiping out polio, right? So it's about solving a problem. And here's the other secret. Money doesn't buy happiness. I know many second and third generations of wealthy families that are miserable sons of bitches because they didn't earn it. They have no sense of pride or accomplishment. Happiness comes from helping others, from gratitude. Have your product, your service, your company imbue with those values, because customers are looking for shared values. Employees want to work at a company that has shared values. Anybody can sell you and make shoes. But when Tom's Shoes came up with, for every pair we sell, someone that's never had shoes gets a pair, suddenly you feel better about your purchase decision. And the last chapter in Future Proofing You, I talk about sustainable capitalism. Capitalism, as we know, endless growth in a finite planet, defies the laws of physics. So we're going to have to look at a new way, the real costs of goods. And this isn't just about doing the right thing. This is where profitable opportunities are. You can fill these new voids. Walmart, huge retailer. One day they woke up and said, after employees, our second biggest cost is energy. So they got rid of the fluorescent lights. They got LEDs. They save $100 million a year in electricity.
Wow.
But what does that do? That causes their competition, Target, to go, oh, we got to do something. So now Target is the largest installation of solar panels. See the trend? Yeah. Those are the opportunities.
I tell you, my own fear and the fear of many of my listeners is that fear itself. I mean, I come up with an idea and then there is the potential of this idea can help so many people, can help me, but at the same time, the fear of failure. And I feel many of the times that I have confronted that fear, I have succeeded. And some of the times that I had let fear beat me, I have been regretting that. And I say, wow, I missed that opportunity. I let fear beat me in the butt. And, and your friend, the one that you mentioned, he was successful in a way because you believe in him more than he believed in himself. So how do we beat that fear?
So I hate with the passion when gurus and people, anybody with a microphone can talk nowadays, says that fear isn't real. You hear this all the time from motivational speakers. Fear isn't real, it's just in your head. Fear is real. Fear is biologically real. The third truth in my book is to harness fear. The oldest part of our brain, what's referred to as the lizard brain, the fight or flight response, is all based on fear. You're only here because centuries ago in some cave, your great-great-great-grandfather saw a saber-toothed tiger and he ran. Okay? Fear keeps us alive. Athletes tap into that fear to get adrenaline, to get that extra hormonal boost. But now think of your fears when you're starting something. Your fear that you're going to lose your money. Your fear that you're going to be embarrassed. Your fear that you're going to lose family money or other people's money. Whole list, all real fears. But if you're walking down the sidewalk and a truck is barreling towards you and the brakes aren't working and it's going to run you over. Are you thinking about losing money? No. You're thinking about, I want to get out of the way of that truck, or I'm going to die. So you can prioritize fears. So fear of losing money, real fear. Fear of being embarrassed, real fear. Fear of wasting your life at a job that's unsatisfying, the only time you get on this planet, to day by day watch it erode until you're just old and bitter. I'd be really afraid of that. And as far as haters that say stuff to you, I have yet to meet a hater that's doing better than I am. Right? So prioritize your life. Now, here's the secret of fear, and this is what I talk about in future-proofing you. If you agree with my analysis that fear is real and everybody has it, turn the table. Whoever you're trying to sell to or raise money from or hire has the same fears. So instead of trying to appeal rationally, try to get in their head from a fear standpoint. I don't mean some mafia thing like buy this or I beat you up. I had a major meeting with Pepsi, with the CEO. I was fairly young. To me, it was the most important meeting. It would make my company go to the next level. I researched everything. I'm on top of the game. For the CEO of Pepsi, it was the only thing stopping him from going to lunch. So his level of engagement and my level of engagement are not equal. But when I started off the meeting, I made sure to let him know that tomorrow I'm flying to Atlanta, home of Coca-Cola. Suddenly, the fear goes in. If they do it and he doesn't, and his board finds out, he loses his job. What are you here talking about? Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, if you work with us, you can't work with the other guys. Yeah, I know that. Okay, here's a check. So there's many ways, and I explained it in more detail in future-proofing you, but harness fear, embrace failure. Failure is part of the process. No toddler stood in the corner and go, today I'm going to walk. They stumble, they get up, they stumble, they get up. So all these things, you can use them as positive tools rather than, so you don't have to be ashamed that you have fear. Everyone has it. Harness it. Make it a tool.
Wow. Okay, Jay, I'm not going to hold you any longer. Can you tell us one more time the title of your book and where people can follow you? And I also saw in your website some free workshops. Can you tell us about that as well?
Yeah. So again, I'm not selling anything. You can get Future-Proofing You, Amazon, wherever you get books. There's an audio version, a Kindle version, a paper version, and it'll start coming out in other languages in the end of 2021. It comes out in Italian first. Shout out to the Italians that were the first ones to grab the rights. But if you really want to change your life, if you're serious, if you want to start today, and again, I'm not selling anything, go to my website. It's my name, JAYSAMIT.com. And I have free workbooks for Disrupt You and Future-Proofing You. So when you're reading a chapter and say, that makes sense. Oh yeah, I should do that. But then it like goes in one ear and out the others. At the end of each chapter, take the workbook and follow those exercises to start making your plan. If you don't know where you want to be in 5 years, how do you expect to get there? Right? So you write this roadmap, you solve these problems, you start, because the more iterations you can do of your future and your business in your head, you're not burning money. You're solving and making the business better before you raise $1 or open your doors. So I wish everybody great success. Tom Bilyeu wrote the intro to my new book. I was very honored by that, and he did a phenomenal job.
Jay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Be well.